Hi, we are starting with recording 16th, and the first question says that Australian embryologists have found evidence that suggests that the elephant is descended from an aquatic animal and its trunk originally evolved as a kind of snorkel. So one problem here is that and unnecessary use of commas and breaking and fragmentation. Let's try to look at the other options. Some have found evidence that has suggested the elephant descended from the aquatic animal its trunk originally evolved. So we have to say that. So that is missing after suggested the elephant, that makes us run on. So B goes out. Let's look at C. It says evidence suggesting that the elephant had descended from an aquatic animal with its trunk originally evolving. So we are using past perfect tense here, and it seems like the elephant has ended, and the problem also goes with its with its trunk originally evolving, and it means like it's still evolving. So C goes out. D says evidence to suggest that the elephant has descended from an aquatic animal and its trunk originally evolved. So elephant has descended from an aquatic and its trunk originally evolved. So no good reason to use the present perfect and the past evolved at the same time. That makes D go out. Let's move to E. Evidence to suggest that the elephant is descended from an aquatic animal and its trunk originally evolved. So here the tenses are parallel. We are remaining in the same dimension in terms of tense. So therefore E becomes our best option. Let's move to the next. The next says that officially the United Statesmen believe that the Sakavega dollar coin will be more as a substitute for 4 quarters rather than will be used more as a substitute of 4 quarter rather than for the dollar, because it weighs only 8.1 gram, far less than 4 quarter, which weigh 5.67 gram. So here the comparison seems weird because the word used more as a substitute. So that makes more as a substitute is quite a good reason and a wrong way of comparison. So A and B can be rejected due to the more as a substitute. Let's look at C. As a substitute for 4 quarter more than for dollar bill. Okay, let's keep C. As a substitute of 4 quarter more than the dollar bill, because it weighs only 8.4 gram, is far lighter than it is for. So unnecessarily words being used. Let's look at E. As a substitute more for quarter rather than for the dollar bill, because it weighs 8.4 gram, far less than it is for. Now the last part makes this go out. Let's look at C again. The Canadian dollar coin will be used as a substitute for 4 quarter more the dollar bill, as a substitute for 4 quarter more than for the dollar bill, because it weighs 8.4 gram, far less than 4 quarter. So C uses the right comparison, and does not use the wrong things like more as substitute and things like that. Question 3 says that one automobile manufacturer has announced plan to increase the average fuel efficiency of its sports utility vehicle by 25% over the next 5 years, amounting to roughly 5 miles per gallon and representing the first significant change in fuel efficiency of an class of passenger vehicle in almost 2 decades. So amounting to roughly versus an increase that amount to. So to make it right, we have to compare an increase and amount to roughly 5 because this increase amounts to 5 miles per hour. The total thing does not make sense to compare it. So an increase with C and D should be one of the answers. So let's try to eliminate one of them. An increase that would amount to roughly 5 miles per gallon and it would represent. And D says an increase that would amount to roughly 5 miles per gallon and would represent. I think unnecessarily we should not use it, because I don't know where it would refer to. So which makes D our best option. Question 4 says a new genetically engineered papaya was produced not by seed companies who has been motivated by profit, which was the case with most genetically modified crops previously approved by, but universally and United States Department of Agriculture researcher who allowed growers to sow it free of charge. So one thing to make it parallel for the not only but should be that if we start with not by, then we should end with but why. But by. So that's one hint. Let's look at parallelism in the other sentences. So but by should be there, which will make A and B go out. C looks fair enough. Let's look at D. Not produced by profit motivated seed companies, which was the case with most genetically modified crop previously approved for commercial use, but was produced by. So unnecessarily wordings being created, which makes E go out. Let's look at it. Not produced by seed companies who have been motivated by profit, the case with most genetically modified crops previously approved for commercial use. So the case with most genetically modified is placed wrong near to just after the seed companies. So that makes C our best option. Things should be placed in the right way before comma and after the comma, and not only but also should always be parallel. Okay, so the fifth one says that the bone of Megangathos, a meat-eating dinosaur that is distant relative of Tyrannosaurus rex and closely resembles South American predator dinosaurs, have been discovered in Madagascar. So whenever the sentence become long, things become easy for us. So I don't see any problem in the first one. Let's look for problems by at the starting point and the ending point. So the bone of meat-eating dinosaur. The bone of meat-eating dinosaur or the dinosaur who is bone-eating? Okay, a meat-eating dinosaur. The bone of a meat-eating dinosaur. So B has placed it wrong, the first part. A distant relative of the other, and with close resemblance to, or we are losing out with close resemblance to, has been discovered in Madagascar. So the starting part is weird and misplaced. So in Madagascar, what the bones of meat-eating dinosaur, measured otherwise distantly related to and closely resembled South American predator dinosaur have been discovered. So in Madagascar is unnecessarily we can use that the bone of it was discovered in Madagascar or something like that. Too many use of commas, and that commas causing modifying error. So in Madagascar, the bone of the meat-eating dinosaur, Megatherius athapes, distantly related to Pterosaurs and closely related South American dinosaur have been discovered. Weird commas, too many confusions. Let's look at option 3. A distant relative of Tyrannosaurus rex, bearing a close resemblance to, or we cannot keep this Megatherius athapes, which is the main issue so much far. Athapes, a meat-eating dinosaur, the bones of which has been discovered. Weird. It should start with what we want to say. So it should start with this main subject, Majunthama Athapes, which we want to focus on. So which makes A our best option out of all the others. Let's look at 6. It said part of the proposed increase in state spending is due to high enrollment. Commerce is the number of students in public school have grown steadily since mid-80s at nearly 47 million at a record high. So they are saying that the enrollment has increased because of this thing. Okay, let's try to look at. So enrollment, comma, and we are explaining why this happens. So that's one hint. So part of the proposal is due to high enrollment, and we are explaining that. Okay, let's look at option B, enrollment. So after comma, what should follow? The part of the proposal increase is due to the high enrollment. Since the number of students in public school have growing steadily since the mid at nearly 45 are at too many commas, too many weird issues. So enrollment with a number of students in public schools growing steadily since mid 80s and at nearly reaching enrollment, since students in public school have grown steadily since mid 1980s at nearly 47 million have reached broken sentence. And B also seems to talk about one specific group of students instead of students as a whole. Let's look at option D, enrollment. The number of students in public school has grown steadily since nearly and has reached. So has makes this parallel. Enrollment, student in public schools have grown steadily. So has and have is one issue. So we have to first decide whether it's has or have. So the number of students in public school has grown. So the right way here, as per the subject and the verb agreement, is has. And the thing that would, so when we look at that, have goes out. B is weird. And the best answer here becomes D, which is right in terms of the subject verb agreement, parallelism, and conciseness. Let's look at question 7. In the mid 1920, the Hawthorne works of the Western Electric Company was the scene of an intensive series of experiments that would investigate the change in working condition as to their effect on workers' performance. So that word as to their effect is wrong. We need to find a better way to express the same. And we are talking about simple past. Okay. So a series of experiments that would investigate changes in working condition as to their effects on workers' performance. Okay, investigating the effects of change in working conditions would have on worker. Oh, this conveys the right meaning. That would change in working condition to their effect. No, change in working condition would have effect in workers' performance. Okay, for investigating what the effect of workers' performance are the changes. Weird. So that investigated changes in working conditions effects on workers' performance. And to investigate what the effect of changing in working condition would have on worker performance. Here, what the effect in working conditions would have on workers' performance. So per workers' performance is used 2 times, so that becomes a redundancy in E. So the best option here, which conveys the right meaning, which is clear, precise, and which places the words in the right way, is option B. So let's move to the 8th one. It says that since the start of space ages, more and more littering has occurred in orbits near Earth, often because the intention of discarding lens cap, packaging material, fuel tanks, and payload cover. Okay, so they are talking about this stuff that's being thrown out. So more and more littering has occurred. So after the comma, what we should keep is the main question. So since the start of the space age, more and more littering has occurred. Let's look at option B. Since the start of the old age, orbits near Earth have become more and more littered, often from the intentional discharge. Okay, let's look at option C. Space age, orbits near Earth become littered more and more, often resulting from. So littering, more and more littered, littering for often resulting from. So often resulting from is the wrong way of tense. And why to get in that controversy? There has been more and more littering of orbits near Earth, often because of the intentional. So this is weird. There have been more and more littering. There had been, of course we cannot use had been. The tense is wrong. So B and C look A, B, C, but C does not look good because often resulting from, and again we are using the same thing. So between A and B, since the start of the space age, orbits near Earth, and look at what follows, often from. So the best thing that we could put after the comma, and that should have unambiguity in terms of tenses, is option B. And also when you pick in the thing, you will see that we are more interested in talking about the orbits, because look at it. Since the start of the space age, More and more littering, if we keep it as it is, more and more littering has occurred in the orbit near the Earth, often because of the intentional discarding of. So this has happened to the orbits, and it has happened from the intentional discarding. A is a close one, but uh, B is a little bit better, though a tough call. Let's look at ninth one. It says now that so much data travels via light that is scattered in the glass fibers rather than electric current. One goal of semiconductor research is to develop a silicon chip that can transmit and receive light signal directly, and development that may lead to a development that may lead one day to smaller and faster semiconductors. So they are using light as a gate, and this is something that would replace semiconductor, where electron is flown through the gates. So that's one of them. So let's look at what's happening. So one goal of semiconductor research is to develop, or the development, or developing, I think whatever you use, it should be parallel. So to develop a silicon chip that can transmit and lead to, let's look for option before that, whether it's to or whether it's development. So now that so much data is carried, one goal of the okay, no direct hints as yet. Let's look at option B. Develop a silicon chip with the capability of transmitting and receiving light signal directly, which may one day lead to. So to develop a silicon chip with the capabilities, so which may lead to should point to the development which is not there. So whenever you see things separated by comma, it should point to the right thing, and which points to nothing, which should point to development. So the development of silicon chip that has the capability of transmitting and receiving light signal directly, a development maybe one day. We cannot use it two times, it's awkward. And may one day leading is again wrong. So development of a silicon chip that can transmit and receive light signal directly, which may one day lead to smaller. So we have 2 here, and we should have a 2 at the first part as well, and which is pointing to receive light and signals directly. It's not pointing unambiguously to development. And E is very wordy, you can get it right away. So the best option here, which talks about 2 development, 2 smaller, which keeps the development, this development may lead to, is option A. So what may lead to smaller and faster computer? It's not silicon chips, it's the development of these things. So the development should be there. Let's move to the 9th one. It says now that so much 9th one is over, we are to the 10th and the last. So just as the free computer operating system Linux has of late become even more crash resistant, no support for it within the computer industry has been. So support for it with the computer, okay. So Linux has become free computers has become often more crash resistant. So support for, so since it has become a crash resistance, support is increasing. Let's try to look for what's the problem with this. So just as versus as, just like, so like, just like. So that's one way to think on the line. So as A, just A says just X, so Y should be and things whatever they are talking should be parallel. Let's look at options. So just let's look at option B. Just as the free computer operating system Linux that has of late become even more crash resistant, so the support, okay, just with the free operating system free computer operating system Linux has of late become even more crash resistant. So, okay, I so B says just as with X, so Y. So with X, with Y should be something. So just as with the free uh, just as with the free operating system Linux, that has become so with the something like that. So it's not parallel. So C, just as free computer operating system Linux has of late become even more persistent, so it has been that. This is weird. This breaks the parallelism. Just like, we cannot use like. And just like with free computer operating system Linux becoming even more persistent of late, so the idiomatic use is just as A as Y as Y. So the best option here becomes option A, which compares the right thing. Okay, so that will bring me to the end of this class. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.